Transit engaged mixed-use development. This picture is Annapolis, San Juan. Karmi presented our plan. We were appointed to do the comprehensive land use and zoning for San Juan, but we included mobility, tourism planning, and disaster preparedness. And the plan we prepared for San Juan was recognized by Berlin. So I was invited to Berlin to present the San Juan master plan done by Palafox Associates. They recognized it as a smart city of the future, if it's followed. So I told the mayor that better follow it, because I went to Germany presenting smart city of the future for San Juan, and we don't even have one smart city in our country. And then the year after, Shanghai, I presented it again, and it was recognized by the Council for Tall Buildings and Urban Habitat from Chicago. So 3 countries already recognize our plan. So I hope it will not just be a vision plan, but it will get implemented. The title is Global Trends and Best Practice Revolutionary Ideas. Because many of the things that we are trying to introduce in our country, they are best practices elsewhere in the world. But sometimes people here, they find it revolutionary. Like, I think most of the textbook that some people, some policymakers are addressing our urban issues were written before the APEC oil crisis of 1973. The rest of the world, they changed the paradigm. Like Karmi showed, the transportation planning. Before 1970, it was so many cars per lane per hour. The rest of the world changed it. So many people per lane per hour. So since 1973, that was already the best practice. In our country, it's still so many cars per lane per hour. That's why they don't recognize our transport policymakers as walking as the first mode of transportation. So that's why we call it revolutionary ideas. So global trends. This is the High Line in New York. It's an abandoned elevated railway. And the government are going to demolish it. Then the residents of New York, they asked to take over and made it into elevated walkway, linear park, connecting the tall buildings. Try to imagine MRT. We make it as a walking, elevated walkway. And in fact, I had proposed several times that the 27 kilometers of EDSA, we put an elevated walkway. It's faster to walk than take a car, especially Friday, payday, it's raining. Also for the rest of Metro Manila, I think we should have more elevated walkways. Vancouver, Canada, the best green building policy in the world. Very, very sustainable green city. Portland, Oregon, America's #1 sustainable city. We just had to go very fast. Curitiba, Brazil. I think some 30 years ago, James Lerner became mayor of this. James Lerner is an architect, urban planner. And he's very lucky. His city council were mostly composed of engineers, architects, planners that time. And they were able to make Curitiba, Brazil, one of the most sustainable, resilient cities in the world. Like this bus stop, the same floor level as the buses. And you pay only 1 fare anywhere you go in the city of Curitiba, Brazil. And Bogota, Colombia, Urban Transportation Award. The former mayor, what's his name? I forgot his name. He did so well, and New York hired him to be a transport planner for Manhattan. And Bogota, yeah, Transmillennium, so on. Vienna, Austria, like many European cities here, Europeans here, they have transformed their vehicular roads into walkable streets. Barcelona, Spain, Las Ramblas. This is a covered canal, Las Ramblas. And it's one of the most walkable cities in the world. This is one of the longest pedestrian streets in the world, connecting different land uses and destinations, hotels, offices, churches, and so on. And practically 24 hours, it's filled with people. Biking, Copenhagen, Denmark, we have one from Copenhagen here. And again, biking as a first mode of transportation. Copenhagen is carbon management and planning, a good example. Rivers and Paris. Karmi said Daniel Burnham planned Manila in 1905. His inspiration was Paris, Rivers and Pasig River, the boulevards of Paris, more open spaces, and the esteros of Manila and the canals of Venice, another inspiration, and the Bay of Naples and Bay of Manila, Manila Bay. So he's an American architect planner, and yet he did not cite an American city as an inspiration for Manila. So he did Manila in 1905, Chicago and Baguio 1909. And until now, Chicago, they're still following the Daniel Barham urban planning principles. Of course, they update it with the new technologies. The basic principles still being followed in Chicago. Switzerland, again, one of the sustainable cities in the world. Their cities, Amsterdam, I think 2/3 of the Netherlands was reclaimed. And they don't get the floods of Metro Manila. And their waterways are used for transport as well. Shanghai, China, is smart vertical city. And the rest of the world, the rest of Asia going vertical, tall buildings. And I'll tell you later the benefits of it. Singapore, intelligent city infrastructure. Hong Kong. If we use the density of Hong Kong, all the world's 7 billion population, we can all fit in the state of Texas, all the 7 billion. And because Hong Kong, because they are vertical city, 70% is open space. Hiroshima, Japan, I met the mayor of Hiroshima. He was a PhD graduate engineering in MIT. Hiroshima, Japan was the worst devastated city, World War II. Warsaw was second. Manila was third. You go to those two cities, they're better reinvented than and rehabilitated than Manila. Dubai, something close to my heart. 1976, while working on the World Bank funded Metro Plan Manila, I was a team leader and senior planner, the ruler of Dubai sent somebody here, Sultan Khalifa, to invite me to work in Dubai. I told them to wait because my commitment with the Metro Plan Manila was until April 1977. So they waited for me. I was name hired. The rest of the family, Wilma, my wife here, and Katrina, were there. Karima was the first Filipino born in Dubai, 1981. I was working as architect, urban planner for the rural Dubai. This was Dubai 1960. In 77, just a few buildings and so on. It's a Bedu settlement. The Dubai Creek was silted. So the ruler of Dubai dredged the creek to make it navigable. He borrowed money through Lloyd's of London, leveraged it against future income and oil. And we were 20 from 14 countries. I was the youngest and the only Southeast Asian. And he gave us only what I interpreted 5 instructions. Bring Dubai from the fourth world, third world into the first world in 15 years. Create a garden city out of the desert. So they were importing soil from Pakistan, irrigation from Germany, flowers from Holland. And then make Dubai a leading pace setter city to set the pace in the Middle East. Everything in 15 years. We're only 200,000 population. All the utilities must be good for 2 million people. Design golf courses in the desert, the tallest buildings in the world, the busiest airport, the largest seaport, and so on, the largest dry dock. And design Dubai as if there's no oil. Because in 35 years, they're out of oil. And one thing I like very much, we were encouraged to go around the world, 1 month for every year, and copy. That was the instruction. So benchmark against the best practices in the world. And my colleagues, the usual, London, Paris, New York. But I thought London, Paris, New York were created to join the first world in more than 100 years. But I went to cities that became first world in less than 15 years. So San Francisco, go west young man, gold. So from gold to construction boom come, trading post, commercial center, educational center, aerospace center, now information technology center. So they were able to evolve from gold to what San Francisco is today. Hong Kong, I had to do anecdotal research, but I'm not suggesting it. Hong Kong started with opium. So opium to trading center, commercial center, and so on. And the political refugees of communist China. So they went to Hong Kong bringing with them their manufacturing skills and garment making skills. From opium to trading to garment to manufacturing to a regional center, shopping center, tourism center, and so on. Singapore, they were thrown out of the Federation of Malaysia because they were Chinese. And they were fortunate, a young graduate from Cambridge came home, an honor graduate, and I think he copied, these are some of my assumptions now, Lee Kuan Yew copied Hong Kong with more landscaping. And many of the landscape architects were Filipinos. For every tree you plant and grow for 5 years, it was tax deductible. Because after 5 years, the tree can take care of itself. And housing. 82% of Singaporeans are in public housing. At that time, 1977, I look at it, they were turning over one house key every 20 minutes. Then Europe, Zurich and Geneva, the same thing. The refugees of running away from World War I and World War II went to Zurich and Geneva, bringing with them chocolate making and watchmaking. Then became a regional center, tourism center, and so on. So what do we see here? You can evolve from one resource to the other. You continue doing some plans. These are man-made waterways in Dubai. The tallest building in the world, the Burj Khalifa, 828 meters. Some, even of my colleagues from the environmental planning professions, are critical of high-rise buildings. Actually, it's more sustainable because 12 blocks of the city, you put it in one building. Tourism belt, it's in the hotel and viewing deck. Place to work, offices, they're there also. Place to live, a lot of apartments. Place to shop and dine and entertain and so on. It's in one block, one building. Just collecting garbage, you don't have to travel several kilometers of roads. Utilities, everything in one point. And they create a brand to the city also. Dubai has so much vacant land, but still they decided to go vertical urbanism. And these are man-made lakes. That's the Burj Al Arab at the background. Man-made waterway also. And the Burj Al Arab, again, very iconic. The form of a sailboat. At one time, the presidential suite here was $56,000 a night. That's like throwing one Pajero every night. And this is the Dubai Creek. This was a creek that was silted, and Reds made it navigable. And it's so busy, like even if there are embargoes against Iran, the trading happens here. And Dubai Port, one of the busiest in the world, landscaping. They have more landscaping than Makati. It was a desert. The Palm Islands, Dubai had only 70 kilometers of waterfront. So Sheikh Mohammed decided to create the islands to add 2,000 kilometers more of artificial waterfront. I've been involved in projects in 38 countries. And experience tells us that waterfront real estate is 50% higher than inland real estate. Much higher than Gulf Fairway. Gulf Fairway lots only 35% higher. And here we are in the Philippines, 18,000 kilometers of waterfront. And we treat the waterfront as back of the house garbage bin. And what do they say about our third longest coastline? Longer than that of the USA. And we have a Philippine Coast Guard, all coast, no guards. And we have a Philippine Air Force, all air, no force. So I think we should open up even for tax-free for watercraft and airplanes. And again, the integrated energy strategy for 2030, because Dubai had a distinction of, in 2006, the highest carbon footprint per capita. So the rulers of Dubai declared that every major building in Dubai should be LEED certified. So Asia ascending. The tall buildings were happening in North America. Now it's shifted to Asia. There are the tallest buildings in the world are now in Asia. One of them is in Taipei and one in Kuala Lumpur. And shifting from North America to Asia. Tall buildings are 14 or more stories. Super tall are 300 meters high. Mega tall is 600 meters and above. Surprisingly, last year, we were number 5 in the world. 59 tall buildings. And number 1 still China, then Japan, South Korea, Singapore, then Philippines. And tall buildings statistics, Asia plus Middle East, we have the highest. Top 10 tallest buildings in the world. Again, it's Middle East, Burj Khalifa, then in Mecca, then in New York, then Taipei, and Shanghai. And again, number 6, Hong Kong, Petronas number 7, and Willis Tower, the old Sears Tower in Chicago. Burj Khalifa is still the tallest. And Mecca, Taipei 101, Shanghai World Financial Center. The designer of this was my professor in Harvard. Hong Kong, International Commerce, One World Trade Center in New York, Petronas Twin Tower. Carmi mentioned to you why the skywalk. If one building is on fire, you can move to the other building. And Nanjing, Willis Tower, the Old Sears Tower. The tallest buildings by 2020, the one will be in Saudi Arabia, Kingdom Tower. It will exceed 1 kilometer. The tallest now, Burj Khalifa, is 828. And two will be in Southeast Asia, Indonesia and Malaysia. So this will be the tallest building. So there's a shift from North America to Asia. The Kingdom Tower by Adrian Smith in Jeddah, its secret was the final height, but it's more than 1 kilometer. And China and Seoul, Korea, one of the tallest as well. Then in Jakarta, it will be in the top 10 in the world by 2020. Shanghai Tower, Shanghai, it's opening this year. Shanghai Tower, done by Gensler, also my professor at the Harvard Graduate School of Design. And then in Wuhan, China, Tianjin, China, South Korea, Doha, Qatar, Tianjin, China, Dalian, China, Dubai again, and Busan, South Korea, and Shenzhen, China, and so on. So, why go vertical? We have a finite land resources and rapidly increasing population. And if we don't go high-rise, Carmi mentioned about 54 million more Filipinos and 70% will go to the cities by 2050. We'll need at least 100 new cities. Or our existing cities will just sprawl out. The average employee of Makati wastes 700 hours a year in traffic. So if your economic life is 40 years, you would have wasted 28,000 hours out of your life. That's why most cities now go vertical. Singapore, Hong Kong, even Kuala Lumpur now, the rest of Asian cities, they went vertical urbanism. We went, the Philippines, we copied erroneously Hollywood and Los Angeles. Designed for the automobile, even if only 2% of Filipinos own cars. Walking is not recognized as a mode of transport. So some principles for livable high-density cities. Maybe as an aside also, in 1998, we had a conference in Boston, revolutionary ideas in urban planning. And somebody spoke some revolutionary ideas. If you have a big house in the middle of the city, you have a higher carbon footprint because you're arrogating to yourself very prime urban land resources. You are preventing more families to live closer to their places of work, and you're encouraging more urban sprawl to encroach into the forest and into the farms. So Makati is now not how to do it, or the Ortigas area where you have concentration of jobs and economic activity high-rises strangulated by low-density gated communities. So those who have big houses in the middle of the city have higher environmental footprint. So some principles for higher density: design on a human scale, full use of urban services, providing transportation options, efficient use of land resources, conserve landscapes, design really matters, and providing alternatives, choices, protect environmental resources, and plan for the long-term growth and renewal. I think what's happening in the country, whether government or private sector, is short-term and opportunistic. So we should strike a good balance between short-term and opportunistic and long-term and visionary. Can we talk about this? People first, planet Earth, and profit. We've included number 4 is culture, history, and heritage, and maybe number 5 is spirituality. Yeah. And zero net energy building by 2030. I signed up here, I think I was the first Filipino, if not the only Filipino until now, who signed up that by 2030, the buildings and communities we design will be zero carbon footprint. And 1 car every 10 trees to recover the oxygen of the carbon monoxide per car. I think there are 300,000 cars passing through EDSA every day. So theoretically, we should have 3 million trees along EDSA. 70,000 cars on Ayala Avenue. So theoretically, we should have 700,000 cars. The projects we do in the Middle East, like Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and so on, I recommend 7 trees per car, per vehicle. Because they have much larger shopping utility vehicles, call them the SUVs. We advocate for green urbanism, architecture, engineering, green interiors, green technology, green energy, green infrastructure, furniture, manufacturing, transportation, and green jobs, and hopefully sustainable development. Again, at the Harvard Graduate School of Design, some of our professors used to tell us that this century will be a re-century, reimagine, replan, re-architecture, redesign, re-engineer, redevelop, renew, reduce, reuse, recycle, and hopefully we'll have urban renaissance. There are three kinds of infrastructure. One is progressive. These are the international airports, international seaports, international schools, hospitals, and so on. And hard infrastructure, we know that. These are the roads, utilities, power lines, water, drainage, and so on. Most importantly is soft infrastructure. I think this is our biggest challenge. Soft infrastructure is the ease of doing business. No red tape, no corruption. And again, when I was in Dubai, 77, the instruction of the ruler of Dubai, I was representing the urban planning department. All permits, round table. The instruction of the ruler was, approve the permit in 1 day. If any one of the signatories have any objection, you have 2 weeks to justify your objection. Because the applicant, it's his own name, his own money, his own land, his own reputation. So what is good for Dubai is good. What is good for business, good for Dubai. And here, there are 44 signatories for a permit. And yet several buildings were allowed on top of the fault line. 20 kinds of urban transport, walking, bicycles, then the different kinds of public transit, then taxis and cars as the last. And it seems our transport policy, number one priority is the automobile. And Karmi mentioned about that one in Korea, in Seoul, Korea, where they used to have a skyway, then a road over the canal. They removed the skyway, they removed the road, they opened up the canal, one of the most attractive places now in Seoul, Korea. One of my colleagues at the American Planning Association mentioned that elevated skyways are like cheating on your diet by loosening your belt. In 15 years, they will become elevated parking lots because the road network is as strong as the weakest link. The weakest links are the intersections, and we don't know how to manage the intersections. Policeman will park his car at the intersection, everybody stops at the intersection, and so on. That's why the paid parking in Makati, I think I was the first who recommended it. When you park your car in the morning and take it out in the evening, you are reducing the capacity of the roadway by 700 to 2,000 cars per lane per hour. So every vehicle that gets towed at EDSA, so you are reducing the capacity of EDSA by 2,000 vehicles per lane per hour. Anti-snap zoning. It's revolutionary idea here. They practice this in Boston. Every new development must have 20% for the urban poor. And the 80% open market housing, if I may, for the urban rich, the profits you make, you cross-subsidize the urban poor. And I went to some of this development, and the Catholic Church real estate is 30% for the urban poor, where they enjoy the same high-quality architecture and so on. Of course, the sizes are much smaller. And I found out the one who were buying into this 20% dwelling unit, grandparents who wants to be within walkable distance from their grandchildren because the children are so busy with their careers and their businesses. So they call, the official name is of this state statute is inclusionary zoning, but it's better known as anti-snap zoning. Affordable mixed use, it was mentioned also. Mixed uses and forms. Global Gateway, we designed this for the Kuwaiti investors across the Clark Airport. And mixed use and multi-use development. Promoting pedestrianization, maximizing land values for priority areas. Promote sharing of infrastructure. Provide attractive transition between land uses. So Rockwell above and Faircrest Central in Davao, which just opened, we designed this also. Promote sharing. Let's say you are a residential parker. You park 7 o'clock at night until 7 in the morning. You are an office worker. You park 8 in the morning till 5 in the evening. You are a shopper, 10 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock in the evening. So you share use of roads, parking, and utilities. And there's a 24-hour cycle activity center. Somebody's always there. Like in Berlin, all the traditional classic architecture buildings, by zoning, they required to put residential penthouses on top, so that even after 5, the office district, there are people on the penthouse. And if you look at our obsolete zoning, it's so difficult to get a permit for doing mixed uses. And again, the Ferry Central in Davao, that we were, Rockwell 1992. If you remember, it was an abandoned power plant. We gave 3 options. One of them is just copy Bel Air. The other one is Copley Place, Boston, Embarcadero, San Francisco, Pacific Place, Hong Kong, Canary Wharf, London, and the projects we've done in Dubai, the high-rise mixed-use development. And we made Pasig River as the front door of development, because nobody will be allowed probably to put a high-rise on top of Pasig River. And this is Rockwell today. We did the master plan and the architecture of the first 5 towers. In our architectural schools here, we were taught that there are only 4 facades. The front architectural facade, the rear facade, the left side, and the right side. For me, there's the 5th facade, looking from above, the landscaping, the groundscaping, how the different buildings dialogue with each other, how that development can connect to the outside. And you can see that we have connecting roads, ramp of EDSA, Kalayaan, outside, off-site improvements are connected. Then the Rockwell Bridge, we had a better design for that bridge if Rockwell got the properties across. This is the 5th facade, the groundscaping, the wider urban context. Make public spaces work harder. Here, we are widening roads, cutting the trees. Mayor Bloomberg closed down Times Square and Broadway, make it into a pedestrian precinct. If you are there for 1 hour, you can listen to 200 languages. People first before the vehicles. And in New York, they have widened the sidewalks, narrowed down the moving traffic lanes, and even they introduced tricycles, the crossing streets, and so on. Turn your roof into edible gardens instead of, and so on. The one on the right above, these are our designs for the King Abdallah Financial District in Saudi Arabia, where the buildings, of course, the green architecture and so on, but all the buildings are interconnected with elevated walkways and 3rd level monorail interconnecting all the buildings. And the ground level street is only for pedestrians and beautiful cars. If you don't have a beautiful car, you are in the basement. You move around the basement. And activating spaces for greater safety for the disabled, children, elderly, pregnant women, people of types, physical activities, and so on. Carmen was saying, even the pedestrian green lights in Makati, 100 seconds for the vehicle, 6 seconds for the pedestrian. So if you're on high heels, you'll never make it. If you're handicapped, you'll never make it. In Shibuya, 66 seconds each. Cars, vehicles, and pedestrians. In, where was that? London? It's 30 seconds for pedestrians, 60 seconds for vehicle. Tactile paving surfaces. So even if you are blind or walking a cane, you can feel the surface of the sidewalk. You are moving out into the road anymore, and walkolators and so on. Solar power glow-in-the-dark paint to guide pedestrians and cyclists. Created street lighting in New Jersey. Entrance transfer accelerator for different modes of transportation. Madrid already banned most traffic from certain city streets. Paris, by 2020, they plan to double the number of bike lanes. And Chengdu, China, new satellite city, you can see all the different levels of pedestrian facilities and landscaping. Milan, Italy, Copenhagen, Denmark, and the urbanization, 2050, 70% will go to the cities with 10 billion world population and 150 plus million Philippine population. The growth of Metro Manila from 1948 to 2020. This was one of my term papers, the Harvard Graduate School of Design. By 2020, Metro Manila will have 20 million population or much more. We'll need 3 airports. So I cannot understand why the arguing, is it Manila or Clark? We need both, +1 in the Calabarzon. You can see here a satellite picture of the Philippines, Imperial Manila. Only Metro Manila is lighted, the rest of the country is not lighted. 40% of our economy, businesses, governance, education, even the armed forces, they're all in Metro Manila. So if the big one, 7.2 magnitude happens, 40% of our economy is down. And it will take us 5 years to recover. 50,000 people will get killed. So for business continuity, we should not look now at branching out to other emerging metropolitan areas like Metro Ilocos, Metro Clark, Metro Subic, Batangas, Iloilo, Cebu, Cagayan de Oro, Davao, and others. So we should really plan out that just in case it happens. And we should always be ready. Like in our office, all employees have a whistle and a flashlight. And if you don't wear it, you get a $1 fine. It goes to the Christmas party fund. This can save your life. It's only 120 pesos for both. And we should be ready anytime. Carmi mentioned about the 1 square meter per population. We have 20 million people in the greater metropolitan area. We have 20 million square meters of evacuation area. In London, they have 38 square meters per person. Here, we don't even have 1 square meter per person. Because elsewhere in the world, open spaces are considered lungs of the city. And this is you can see the big imbalance, the primacy of Metro Manila. It's no wonder the Cebuanos call it Imperial Manila. And Duterte is going around promoting federalization, because he said if the BBL doesn't get approved, there might be civil strife in Mindanao. And just like many countries like United Arab Emirates, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and so on, each of them are very autonomous and so on. Many European cities like Germany, Switzerland, and so on, even if you study in the provincia, it's as good as the schools in Frankfurt and Berlin and so on. But in our country, if you study in the provinces, you are a second-class citizen. So even the universities, we're encouraging them to stop expanding in Metro Manila and plan their expansion outside Metro Manila. So this is we drew this aerial perspective of EDSA corridor and central business districts. Again, planning is balanced. This is imbalance. You have the concentration of jobs in these business districts surrounded by low-density gated military camps and gated residential subdivisions. If you fly a helicopter over EDSA at peak hours, say 8 o'clock in the morning, EDSA is so full. Look at the roads of Camp Aguinaldo and Camp Crame and the subdivisions along EDSA. No traffic. Why can't we open them up? Maybe from 7 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock in the evening and allow them to charge higher stickers. And that's maybe one way. And encourage all these subdivisions in Metro Manila, most of them anyway, Makati and Ortigas villages, they are in the Guadalupe Plateau. The Guadalupe Plateau is adobe, solid. These are the places that we should encourage high-rise buildings. But what do we have? 2-story buildings. And where areas that are more vulnerable, where most of the urban poor are, when there's earthquake, they will liquefy. If there's flooding, they get flooded. And the best geology is strongest as where the low-density housing are. EDSA is an urban corridor, how not to develop a city. We have 13 MRT stations, the more progressive thinking cities in the world. When you have a major transit stop, higher density development, so that you have more people within walkable distance. And what do we have? Gated communities who don't use the MRT and gated military camps. When we were designing Rockwell, a survey was done. We Metro Manilans, we walk only 400 meters. Beyond that, we take a stop anywhere, tricycle, bus, jeepney, chauffeur-driven cars, and taxis. If we are more progressive thinking with visionary leaders, strong political will, good urban planning, good design, and good governance, we should plan our cities much better, more efficiently. The skyline of Makati, Ortigas, and Manila skyline. So the nice postcard of Makati skyline above, it's not how to do it. Because the central business district, the daytime population is 11 times the nighttime population. So everybody's complaining about traffic, nobody's counting. Why is it so? Because you have the problem of bringing in the 11 times population in the morning and bringing them out in the evening. It's no-brainer. Because our transport planners, they look at the supply side only. The roads, the buses, and so on. They don't look at the demand side. The demand side, which generates traffic. And along EDSA, we have probably the most number of super regional shopping malls in the world. Because super regional shopping malls, the distance will be 9 kilometers each, according to the International Council for Shopping Centers, which I'm a very active member also. And why do they have that? Because we don't allow shopping inside the villages. So there's a hierarchy of shopping centers from the neighborhood, community, then you go shopping mall, regional and super regional. EDSA corridor in Alabang Sapote Road, probably the most over-malled streets in the world. And this is Metro Manila's traffic in EDSA. So you can see it's mostly cars. In the Metro Plan Manila, which I was team leader, World Bank funded, 75 to 77, we had recommended congestion charging. During peak hours, you pay. We could have done it 1 year behind Singapore. Way ahead of London, but there was no political will to implement it. In Tokyo, the Japanese have the highest number of cars per capita, but I think 90% commute by public transport. If you want to see beautiful cars in Tokyo, you go out after 1 o'clock in the morning when the trains are not running. That's where they bring their beautiful cars. Again, Ayala Station, for instance, this is the 400-meter radius. So all these 400-meter radius, they should be high-rise, high-density residential and offices. So you have more people walking to the transit station. So again, a good example of how not to do it. And here, in Wak area, the Ortigas station, the 400 radius, 400-meter radius. And Santolan, gated military camp. This is my proposal for Metro Manila 2050, Manila Megalopolis 2020. The Americans proposed 6 circumferential roads in 1945. That was 70 years ago, long before I was born. Until now, we haven't seen the light of day for circumferential road number 6. So my proposal here by 2050, 10 circumferential roads, including linking Cavite and Bataan, either through a tunnel or a bridge, and put a wave breaker for tsunamis and storm surge. So that people from Cavite going to Subic, they don't have to increase the volume of traffic in Metro Manila. They can avoid Metro Manila right away. That's doable. Of course, several major roads and 3 airports. Clark, 1 in Batangas, and the one in Metro Manila is either one of those at least. And again, the water transport, Manila Bay, Laguna Lake, and even a walkway from Manila Bay Walk, Pasig River Walk, then 250 kilometers, the promenade of Laguna Lake. This one is linking the whole Philippines. It's only 2,000 kilometers. In 2006, I was invited to talk in the 60th anniversary of the United Nations in New York. I proposed to interconnect all the 7 continents of the world. They were all saying, oh, this crazy Filipino. And then the day after, scientists, engineers, planners were congratulating me. They did their calculations. It's cheaper than the Gulf War, linking all the continents of the world. So when I came home here, linking the whole Philippines is so easy comparing to linking the rest of the world. So it's doable. And we're speaking to several funders. Many of them were interested. Unfortunately, they are Chinese developers. When you link 2 islands, you're creating 2 gateway cities. Just those 2 gateway cities, imagine the land value appreciation. Those two gateway cities. Somehow I got inspired working in Dubai, because in Dubai everything was possible. And when you put it in the infrastructure at the right place at the right time, you create values. And this is still doable. And I'm talking to Secretary Jimenez, the Yolanda Corridor, everybody's talking disaster, disaster, disaster. The Yolanda Corridor, we can create it like the Caribbean of the Far East. And the whole Philippines, the Mediterranean of the Far East. It's doable, it can be done. Again, we just need visionary leadership with strong political will. And case studies on one, I think Karima has mentioned this already, existing situation today and the future. We've been taking pictures, and you can help us here. We've been taking pictures of the uglification of our cities. Then we send the mayor's architectural perspectives. I call them postcards from the future on their birthdays. And if you have the uglification in your neighborhood, take a picture, send them to us. We'll do a perspective, we call it postcard from the future. And again, Annapolis Street today, in the future. And some selected projects, I just go for it. The Global Gateway, 172 hectares, 3 billion investment from Kuwait, and planning, and King Abdallah Financial District, I mentioned to you about this, and the 3 levels of accessibility, and then Rockwell. And then, of course, we all like to live in environment-friendly cities and communities that are better connected, more accessible, more walkable, more bikeable, safer, better lighted, more convenient, cleaner, with mixed income, cross-generational mixed-use developments, integrating places to live, workshop, and dine, learn and worship, and with healthcare, recreation, and leisure, with some 24-hour cycle activity centers.